Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. It's been a long time, and as you'll be able to see in a minute, we are still in the van, and I might do an update on that soon, but that's a story for another day. I am currently starting on a new venture, beginning with a series of interviews with mums running their own businesses, and since there's a lot of entrepreneurial mothers in my own circle of friends and family, I decided to start there. Today I'm interviewing Hatti, who lives in the Lake District in the northwest of England, which is where Ben is from, and where I actually spent the first 12 or so years of my time in the UK. So come with me as we're talking about the ideas and beginnings of those businesses, all the way to making them successful and profitable by mothers like you and I who have decided to take control of theirs and their families' lives, and how to fit the work they're passionate about around their families rather than the other way around. Hatti is running businesses revolving around nature and healing, which of course goes hand in hand with being in such a beautiful place. So enjoy! So welcome everyone to this video. Today I feel very honored to welcome Hatti, a dear friend of mine, to this chat on the subject of mothers in business. Hatti is currently running several businesses, and she is the mother of 2 boys. She's also home educating them and has been an entrepreneur for over a decade now. And knowing her, I'd say she's probably an entrepreneur at heart and was probably born as one, but I feel like you'll be able to feel into that a little bit as we speak. So today I'm very happy to hear more about Hatti's story and what has led her to the way she's currently living her life and running her businesses, and how she's managing all of it as a mother of 2 young boys. So Hatti, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me on.
Let's start maybe with at the beginning, I guess. So why, when, and how did you start on your journey of entrepreneurship, and how has it evolved up until now?
Right, okay. So, well, I had a few jobs in my 20s after uni, and yeah, they were in quite big sort of companies, and it just wasn't for me. I would go into the office and I'd dream of having my own business, and I'd always have these random ideas, and then I just couldn't see how I could do it. It was like that's what I was programmed into maybe as a kid, that you go to uni and then you get a job, and you know, then my mum and dad can tell everyone that Hattie's got this job in London, or it was like and yeah, I worked in the fashion industry for a bit, and then a couple of others back up here. And yeah, I just always sort of went in. I was really bored, and I would, obviously get my work done, but it wasn't the right environment for me at all, and I struggled. And then when I had Jude, my eldest, I was 27 when I had him, and I wasn't thinking about home educating or anything when I had Jude, but I knew that I didn't want to go back to work. So, because I was working 5 days a week in an office, and it was about an hour's drive away from where I lived. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to leave him and go to work 5 days a week. So I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity to set up my business. And I was like, it wasn't like opportunity. It's like, I have to do this because I can't go back to work. And we didn't have enough money. My husband wasn't earning enough money for me to not work at all. We had a mortgage at the time, a small house, and that just wasn't an option. So I just thought, well, I have to do it. So at the time, I was into holistic therapy. Well, I'd been a designer, so that's my sort of thing that I went to uni for, and I've always been into design, and I was doing graphic design and marketing at the time. So it was like, well, I either do design or I could do holistic therapies, which I was getting into at the time. And I thought, well, it's harder to fit holistic therapies and clients around a baby because I'll have to have people coming to the house, or I'd have to find childcare while I was doing it. But I thought, well, design I can just do when he's asleep or at night. So I just thought, right, well, I'm going to do that. but I didn't know how to build websites. And I thought, to set up a design company, I'm going to have to build people websites. So I spent my maternity leave kind of figuring out websites a little bit this was when he was a bit older, 5 months and onwards. Figuring out websites a bit. And then I remember I went on a business course, and it was I can't remember, it was 5 days, and I was still breastfeeding, and I was just so desperate to go in it that I asked them, can I have somewhere to pump milk when I'm there? So they gave me this big conference room, and I was like pumping milk on my lunch break, with a picture of Jude on my phone so that I could do this business course. So I was so determined. And then when I was meant to go back to work, I had to work a few days to not pay back my maternity. So I did like one Friday a week. And I think my mum helped, and anyway, so I set up my design business, Creative Soul, in 2011. Jude was born September 2010, so I set it up when he was about 8 months old, I think. And I just got clients, and then I would figure out how to create websites for them. Like, I just figured it out as I went along, and I would get Jude to bed. He went to bed quite easily, which I was lucky really with. But so I would get him to bed at like 7, 8, and then I'd work until midnight every night. And I was so determined that I just wanted it to work, that I just did that. And then I've always had really lovely clients for some reason. So because I meet them through networks or home ed things, or then it was baby groups or things. I maybe went to a bit of networking or something, but quite often they would let me take Jude with me, and he was such an easy baby that really worked when he was little. So anyway, I've still got my design business. That's my main source of income, and it has been for 11 years now. And I've done various little projects, different projects along the way. So what else have I done? I've trained as a flower essences practitioner since then, so I'm really into my essences, and that's which I'll go into later, but that's kind of the things I do is flower essences and design. But the design is usually for holistic well-being type businesses. I've got that niche now. But along the way, I've done various things. So I had a parenting adventure blog, Parent Tribe, when we moved to Portugal. Actually, I did the parenting blog first, and then I met someone and we moved to Portugal. So then I had that, and then I've still got Natural Cumbria, which is a Cumbrian directory of natural businesses. And I have a yurt in my garden that I use for workshops, and might start renting it out soon. I do an honesty shop at the front of the house. So I've got a few different projects going on. And I've always sort of been like that with the ideas, and I just go for it. But this year I've changed a lot this year, and I've been like really learning how to not take everything on that comes my way, or really sort of clearing out what I want to do, what I don't want to do. So I'm getting a lot more focused finally this year. I've tried to do that for a long time, but it's been a good journey though. I think it's good to try out ideas and these different things, because you learn along the way, and I very much learn through throwing myself into things and learning through the experience, to be honest. So that's kind of my business. That has been part of my businesses, that I just try things. And they don't always work out, but I think it's really good to do that in business, I think. But what else can I say? Yeah, so with my design business, I used to work with anyone, and I still kind of do, but I've kind of seem to have got a bit of a name for working with holistic type businesses, and that's kind of my focus is around that. And sort of nature-based businesses, and I get a lot through word of mouth, because people, similar circles that then recommend me to someone else and stuff like that. So yeah, me, and I suppose what I like to think is that, yeah, my business is called Creative Soul. It just came to me 11 years ago, but I like to help creative souls and nurture that in people. So I think we've all got this innate creativity in us. Lots of people think they're not creative, but I think if you live in aligned with your soul and stuff, then you're naturally creative in different ways. So I like to nurture that through my design work and helping people who have that vision, or with my essences, helping people to sort of get on that path and support them in it. So yeah, I've got more of a sort of focus with it now, of that's what I like doing, is just helping nurture creative souls, I guess. And with my boys, so because I'm home educating my boys, I do that with them as well. So it's kind of like that's my focus,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
And I find it amazing how from, you said you had, jobs that you didn't like, and to then go to do your own thing. And actually you were mentioning that you pushed the holistic side away a little bit because you weren't quite sure how to incorporate that with the baby, which, yeah, makes sense, right, if you work with clients. But how, when you actually went into that it just kind of came to you, right? So now you're working with
Yeah.
people who are in that field that
Yeah.
so it's like
I
going
think,
after your passion, and it kind of comes to you almost, hey?
yeah. And I do think that happens actually. But I think when you've got a baby, you do have to be very practical about what you can actually do and what you can't. So I had to make that decision. But then, yeah, I seem to naturally over the years attract that sort of person to work with anyway. And I've made so many lovely connections, and been inspired by a lot of the people I've worked with on their design, because it's more than design. It's like, helping them with their vision, and helping them move forward with their vision, really. So yeah, it's been really nice, and it's been, it's probably the last 6 years or more I've worked mainly with that sort of niche. So yeah, it's good. And sometimes I try and step away from my design because I'm like, I really want to focus on my essences and my healing work. But I just can't, because then people come to me that are really lovely and they're like, "Oh, will you do my logo? Will you do my website?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's exciting." I'm gonna do it, work with them. So I've tried that a few times, and yeah, it doesn't really work. So
Yeah,
I
and I
think,
must say you definitely put that out as well. I remember when I first met you, it was at a red tent event for women. I don't know if you remember that. You
oh
came
yeah,
in,
with me.
Felix was just born, or he was very little. You still had him in the carrier. And you weren't there for long. I remember you saying, "Well, I've got my little one, I'm breastfeeding, so I might have to leave again." And I think you did, but I felt really drawn to you because you were just so
Oh,
natural, and like I really liked that and went into that bit as well at the beginning. Um,
oh,
so yeah, that must have been just under 8 years then, right? That we first met, and then we re-met
yeah,
at a talk that I did on like no sugar or
yes,
something like
I
that.
remember that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it
you
would have been
definitely
8 years
remember
ago
that.
because we moved to the South Lakes just after Felix was born, and he's 9 in February. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and then yeah, I can remember I came to that talk. Yeah, but Ben and Ben and Garth knew each other when they were younger as well, didn't they? So
Yeah,
yeah.
true. Yeah, so let's so you arrived at the present, the here now quite quickly, but I'd like to go back maybe for, women who are just starting out or thinking about starting a business, or who might be at this, like on this edge of, they kind of feel like they want to pivot, but they don't really know if it's a good idea. And obviously you've kind of, you've started businesses that you still have, but then you did pivot quite a lot as well, like
Mm,
especially around the parent tribe, I guess. You don't
mm,
run that at all anymore, do you?
no.
No. So I'd like to go back to those, I guess, those moments in time where things did change
Hmm.
and you made like a big decision, and maybe it felt quite scary, or you would have, maybe you felt like you're giving up on it, but maybe it was also this time of transformation where you knew, I just have to change this now.
Yeah.
So how was that? Was it more of a gradual thing for you, or was it like because you said you have an idea and you just run with it?
Yeah.
Are you
Was that like that in the past, that you had an idea and you just said, Actually, let's change that now," or does it kind
Yeah.
of come gradually? How did it?
Well, I work very intuitively with everything I do, really, and I kind of feel guided to things sometimes, or I just feel like it's the right thing, or if it's not, it's all to do with energy with me. So if I feel like my energy isn't in something anymore, I'm getting better at realizing this, but I'm like, well, that has to go. I can't carry on with that, because I think people can feel if your energy's not in it anymore. And when I was saying about my design business, sometimes I've taken a step back, and I've thought, oh, I'm not going to do design anymore, but that always seems to come back. Whereas there's been projects like the Parent Tribe one, I had to move on because, well, we were in Portugal living off grid, and I was sharing everything about our family, um and we were going to start a sort of off grid retreat there and stuff like that. And it didn't work out for various reasons. I won't go into, personal reasons, and my kids didn't want me to share pictures of them on social media anymore. So it wasn't working for my family anymore, and I wasn't going to push it for them. And then when we came back to England and it didn't work out how I thought it was going to, I did feel quite a lot of shame around that. And I thought maybe I should be sharing what's going on for us now. And oh gosh, I've failed at that. What's everyone going to think? And it took me a while to get over that, but I thought, no, well, no, I don't have to. I don't have to. I did do an update and I said, I'm moving on from this now. This is how I'm feeling. But I'm quite honest. I've always been quite honest and open about stuff. And I do think maybe, well, I feel now from what I'm like now, I was maybe too open with that blog and for my family. And I don't regret it because I learned from it, but I wouldn't do that again, really. And I've learned with social media, I don't want to be as open. So I do think sometimes, it's just the circumstances and I have to make a decision, right, I've got to move on from this, or I have a feeling that, right, my energy's not in this, I have to move on because people are going to feel that from me. I've got that with Natural Cumbria at the moment, my other directory that I set up. I had that last year in December. I all of a sudden decided to stop it. But then within a month, I found someone who wanted to run it for me. I've had 2 people try and run it for me this year and it's not worked out. So I'm in the position again now. I can't put my energy back into that. So I'm either going to have to sell it or run it or close it down. And I feel fine about that because for me, it's, how do I feel about this project? Does it make me feel expansive? Does it make me feel like energized? Do I want to do this? Or does it make me feel heavy? And if it makes me feel heavier, no, that's it. I have to stop. There's no point in pushing something, because if you're an entrepreneur, it's your energy that's behind it. And I think that people can feel that, can't they? And I think when I did Parent Tribe and did Natural Cumbria well, it was because my energy was in it and I was, excited about it. But then when that goes, for me, you have to move on. And maybe that's not the right way to do business, but for me, an intuitive way is always the best way, really. And I've found that this year very much. I'm sort of working more into that. I don't know if have you heard of human design?
Yes, I'm not really too much into it. Someone asked me, you asked me as well recently,
I
which
think probably,
type
yeah.
I did find it out, but I don't know enough about it to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. I don't know a massive amount about it, but I had a business coach like last year who was really into it and told me all about it. And I was like, oh, yeah, but didn't really listen to her. But then this year, I've had massive personal growth in different ways this year. And I've looked at it and I've thought that really makes sense to me. And I'm a manifesting generator, which is people who are multi-passionate and they have lots of ideas, and you feel it in your body. If an idea comes to you or you have one and it feels right, you have to go for it. And it might work or it might not, but you have to try it. And so I'm that sort of person. So seeing that reading all that and reading deeply into my profile, human design profile, has made me think, well, that's okay, because that's how I am. And I've always shied away from, well, I've always thought that I should only have one thing on the go. And I've always thought, right, I need to decide what's the one thing I'm doing, but it's just never worked for me. So yeah, so that's helped me sort of accept myself a bit more in that way and find strategies to work with it. So I do recommend, I mean, it's quite a big thing on Instagram at the minute, human design. Everyone's like, oh, what's your human design? And but I don't massively go into it, but for me it's really resonated and helped with my work, my business. So I recommend people look at that, actually. And intuition and building on your intuition is really important in business. I think that's a biggie. Yeah, so I think yeah, intuition, and if you have a passion and a feeling of expansiveness when you've got an idea, it's something you've got to try, I think. But if your heart's sinking and you're pushing something, sometimes I think you've got to let it go. Even for the time being, you've just got to let it go and see if it'll come back. But you can't push something just for the sake of it, I don't think, anyway. It doesn't work for me. Don't know about you.
No, I've been the same, only to the point where I think human design, I'm a projector. I can't remember exactly what that means. But I feel similar to you. I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so into this right now. I need to make this into a business because this is the way to go. I felt like that I don't know, for the last 15 years, but I never actually made it to actually have a working, profitable business, because I would change so much and I would evolve so much and fast, I guess, for myself, that I'd always be like, but now I'm into this and I'm not really interested anymore in this other thing, so let's start the next thing. And then, you know, I got pregnant and got really into the whole birthing thing, and and then that changed to being a mom, and you know, so yeah, I'm pivoting a lot, and to me it's always like, oh, can't do this again. But I also do not feel like I can't support the other thing anymore, because I either don't believe in it or I'm just not into it enough anymore to then make it run from a, you know, standpoint of really standing behind it. And also what you said about, you know, pushing for it, it also sounds like it's more of a masculine thing, right? This linear thing, and we as women, not everyone of course, but especially mothers, like we creating things. So I feel like it's more of a maybe a thing for women as well, to just go with the flow. I don't know. Not for everyone, as I say, but
you know what, that's something I've really been realizing this year. I haven't, because design maybe felt like quite a masculine sort of energy thing before on websites. I was like pushing it away for a few years, the last few years. But this year, yeah, I just feel like I do feel like that, like flowing more is fine, and my essence, you know. And yeah, I've definitely delved more into that this year and trusted that you know, that it's the right thing. And then when I've had people come to me for design, because I've been through a lot of personal change this year, so I haven't massively been focusing on my business, to be honest with you. But when I've had people come to me for design projects, which I often do, they've been really sort of lovely projects to work on, and it's been more flowy and stuff. So I've thought, oh, actually design's not that bad, like I can do it, and it can be enjoyable, and you know, so I'm not pushing it away anymore. But yeah, no, definitely I think the pushing is, yeah, it is. And sometimes you need that. I think you need a bit of both. It's like I've decided this week to go back to a networking event locally on Thursday morning, and I can do that if I get childcare. I can do it. I used to do that a lot at the start of my business, but I haven't really done it for a while. But I feel like I want to do it again for a little bit and see what happens. It's a women's one, but I only feel like that now and again, you know, pushing a little bit and then flowing. So it's maybe sort of ebbs and flows with business as well when you're a woman and a mother, because you have to, especially if you do home ed, and you know, you have to put the kids first, so your business has to be able to work around that flow as well, which I feel like I've kind of got that balance now finally. It's taken a long time.
So how are you managing your business and your life time-wise? Like, what are your working hours, and also what are your times off on a, I guess, a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly schedule? Do you plan ahead, or do you kind of just go with it? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, yearly and monthly, I wouldn't say. I've always been very much against structure and planning ahead. I'm not very good at that. Not against it, but I'm just not very good at it. But again, this year with all the changes I've been through, I feel like I'm getting quite balanced, and I've put in a bit more structure in. So I've planned some events, like in my year, I've got some wreath making workshops in December, and I've planned ahead. But on a weekly basis, so with a weekly basis, I've got quite a good balance now because my kids are older, and actually me and their dad have split up. So he has them set days from 11 o'clock until bedtime, and they're not all together days, so it's split up during the week. So on those 3 days, that's when I work or do my own thing. But when I have the boys as well, sometimes in the evening I'll do the odd hour when they're doing their own thing, because they're older. So, they go up to the bedroom sometimes, or, there might be a home ed thing where I can take an hour to go on my computer. So I can leave them at home ed things more now as well. So it's kind of easier in that way as they get older. So yeah, I might do, and because I bake in the shop as well, the boys go to bed quite late, so I get up early. Sometimes do bake in the morning and get my shop and my cups and teas and coffees out on my honesty shop. So I'm putting more structure into my week, but I do have 3 days where I can work, but I don't work all those days. And monthly, no, I don't really. I mean, there's set things I might do each month. So I might go to like this networking event that I'm starting. I might go to that once a month now going forward. I'm part of a holistic health community where I go one Wednesday night a month to help out in that. So it's kind of networking things I might do monthly as well. But what else? Time-wise, during a day, so say if Wednesday when the boys are with their dad, I realise I've got a lot on, I will sometimes write a list, and I'll be like, right, I'll try and do this for the morning, and then I'll take the dog for a walk, and then I'll try and do this and this in the afternoon. So I do kind of set a little plan for the day when I know I'm going to do a full day's work. But I'm not a massively scheduled person though. I'm quite flowy with it, but I have found the structure at the moment is a lot better than what I used to be. It's harder when you have young kids because they need you more, and not saying my kids don't need me, but it's definitely harder, I found, when they were younger, although I did always try and find that time. It also depends what you're doing, doesn't it? Because with design work, I can just, because I'm quite quick at it now, because I've been doing it for 20 years or something, I can just get my computer out and do half an hour's design work while the kids are doing something else, or while I'm watching something with them sometimes even, so it's quite easy to fit in that. And it depends if other people are doing something else. It just depends, doesn't it, really? But I do think I used to fight structure, and I think it is good to have some set days or set times that you can focus on your business. I do think that now. I used to just be sort of quite random with it. And also yearly, actually, thinking about it, I've decided recently that November and January I'm going to be hibernating more, because so I might spend more time on my business or at home, and then December, I know it's going to be busy, and the same in summer, I know it's going to be busy. We're going to be out and about swimming and enjoying the Lake District loads, so I probably won't get much work done. So I suppose I do know the times in the year when I'm going to be more busy and times when I can focus more, and not just on my business, but I suppose I see my business as my home life as well. So it's either I'm out a lot or I'm in doing work and focusing on the home and stuff. So it's more like that, really, I suppose. Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
And with the flower essences, because you make them yourself as well, right? You don't just use other, like you started to make them a lot more yourself, right? So how is that more of a summer thing, or do you do that all throughout the year?
I would say I make more flower essences in summer because really you're meant to have sunshine to make them. So it's obviously harder. But I can make them in winter. In fact, there's one I feel like making at the moment. But yeah, I'd say more in summer. I'm more inspired to make flower essences. And tincture, I'd sometimes do dried. I'd pick things and dry them and make balms and stuff like that. So I do more of that in summer as well. Or I'd harvest it more to then use. So yeah, I do that sort of thing in summer as well. But I think you naturally sort of feel inspired in spring and summer as well, don't you? So I do kind of work with the seasons a bit. And winter, and obviously for me, living in the Lake District, where it's touristy, my outside shop and my yurt things are going to follow the seasons with that as well. So, and then probably I'd probably do more essences, and my shop and stuff made a lot of money over summer, and then maybe it's more design works in winter because that's when people might focus in a bit and want to have a new logo or a new website for the new year or something. So it kind of takes that flow naturally, really, because people are quite busy over summer to look at their design work in the business and stuff, for instance.
And I guess because we're working more with women as well, we do kind of flow more with the seasons, as you say.
Yeah. And I do work mostly with women. Yeah. And I've met so many interesting people through my work as well, and quite often keep in touch with them. So that's really nice.
Amazing. So how would you say you're fitting in your own self-care, and how much time do you get for yourself, like purely just, looking after yourself and recharging, and also spending time with your boy?
All right. Come on. Just take it with you. No. Do you want to ask that? Right. No, come here. Let her calm down, and then you might want to ask that again, do you think?
Yeah. No, I was asking how you're fitting your own self-care and, recharging yourself, and also spending time purely with your boys. And I guess on top of that, are you able to actually, when you're working, to only work and not feel like, I should have spent more time with the boys, or when you're with the boys to really focus on the boys and not feel like, I need to do all this stuff, which is what so many of us, I think, struggle with, the constant feeling torn between everything and never able to focus on just one thing. Sorry, there's a lot of questions in one.
That's okay. Well, I think I've got more comfortable with what kind of mother I am, to be honest, because I've never been, I'll openly admit it, I've never been a mum who's very good at sitting and playing with them, like focusing just on them, because I'm probably have ADHD traits. So if I sat and play with them, I'd get really bored after 5 minutes and have this other idea of like, oh, should we do this? Oh, should we do this? And they're like, sort of thing. So I must admit, I've always probably been a mum who kind of gets on with their stuff a bit, where they're playing, and I'll join in or I'll guide them to stuff. But more and more as they've got older, I'm very much the unschooling of like, they see me doing my thing, they do their thing, and we do stuff together sometimes, and it's just become more and more like that. But having said that, I make time to focus just on them now. So you know, the days I'm with them, well, we do have quite a lot of home ed stuff going on, so I'll take them to Forest School and I'll be with them there. We'll go for walks. I try and take them. We live right next to the Rydal Lake, and you know, we go for bike rides and walks and stuff together. Or like last night with my 12-year-old, we made a date at 7:15 to watch a film together, because quite often he's up in his room. So I was like, he said to me, "Mum, can we watch a film together?" And I said, "Yeah, well, let's make a time." And we did, and we sat and watched a film together. So I think I'm quite good at we're all kind of doing our own thing, but then we talk about what we're doing, and then we try and make time together as well. And I think I've always, more and more I've said to them, if I need my space, I'll take it. So if I really need to go and sit in my room for half an hour, I can now, they're at that age, I'll say, look, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go and have a bath or whatever. They'll need to do that. And I think with home ed, like, that's important, that they know that mum needs space sometimes. And so yeah, the days I'm with them, I do make sure you know, there's times where I do focus on what they want to do, and we'll do something. But quite often we're all sort of doing our own thing, which is fine. It seems to be fine because they're very independent, my boys. And what was I going to say? In the days that I don't have them, so there's 3 days from like 11 o'clock, when they're with the dad, that I don't always do work. Like I should probably put work first, but I actually just try and get my work done. And because I can do my design work my business doesn't take up a lot of time at the moment. Like I could push it a bit more, but I'm doing okay. So I might spend a couple of hours, mostly 2 or 3 hours on my business, and then have those days to go for walks or go for meals, or like tonight I'm not with the boys and I'm going to go for a walk with the dog and have a bath and sort my house out. And I quite like just pottering around by myself, but or with somebody else. So yeah, I do feel like I suppose I'm the sort of person that I put fun and self-care and happiness for me and the boys first before work and their work. You know, they're like learning and stuff. Well, you know, I believe that they're learning all the time, and I think them learning to put that first is really important for them as well. And they learn, you know, they're learning all the time. So my business, I'll just try and get done as quick as I can and get my work done, and then I like to go and play. That's just who I am.
I love that though, that you put your, you know, the fun first, and because that's really what everyone should be doing, I think. But most of us are really bad at it. And you know, this whole like, oh, work first and then you can play or whatever. Let me just see with this light.
There you go.
Yeah. Crown now. Yeah, no, I do. I really like that idea too.
Yeah, and
it's funny that, you know, when people, I was going to say, it's funny because, you know, people, and myself included, we hear that you have run all these businesses all at the same time, and you're like, when do you ever get time to sleep? But then you say you don't really spend that much time on them. I love that, actually, that you were able to, you know, build that life for yourself where you can just kind of run whatever you want or not. Obviously it's also like a financial thing, right? But
I'm not used to living with loads of money, but then some people say to me, like, it's also a mindset and stuff about being rich, isn't it? And what is rich and what is success. And I always think that as long as when people come into my house and say it's a lovely house, but all my stuff is secondhand. I go to, my favorite shop is Age Concern Warehouse in Kendal, but I get all these lovely trinkets and furniture from there, and I make my house look amazing. I buy secondhand clothes, and I buy really nice clothes, but they're secondhand. So you don't need, well, for me, I would, I know that I would earn more if I put more time into it, but at the moment I'm focusing on this family life and working around it. So you have to have compromises, and as long as I'm, you know, getting, not saying just getting by, it's okay, but it's just like, if you're doing what you enjoy and you're making enough money and you've got the things you want around you, then you don't need to push it. That's how I feel. And it was really cute the other day because Felix came to me and he said, this is my 8-year-old, and he said, "Mum, are we rich?" And I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Well, it said on YouTube that if you have 3 stories in your house, you're rich." And I said, "Oh, well, we must be then, because we've got a 3-story, like 3-bedroom house now." And he said, oh, there was something else as well. I can't remember what it was. And then I said, "Well, do you think we're rich?" And he said, well, we don't have loads of money, do we? But we've got really nice friends, and we live in a nice house, and we've got lovely animals, um, and we can do pretty much what we want. Like, you don't make us go to school. And I said, "So we are rich in your eyes then. That's good, isn't it?" So I suppose for me, like, being an entrepreneur and running my own business is like doing what I enjoy and having the freedom. And if you can make that work, like, you don't have to, there's a lot of things online about, oh, you can earn like loads of money and blah blah blah, and I can tell you how to do this, but maybe some people do want to earn a lot of money, but you have to just figure out what is important, I guess. I am focusing more on the moment of working less and earning more. So I think if you expect that and you put that in your mind, then you'll figure out a way to do it as well.
Yes.
It's
And
all
you can
about,
always get money, right? Climb back.
yeah. And I suppose it's about, I'm quite stubborn as well. Like, I couldn't work for anyone else now. So I just sort of have to find a way and keep going with it. And then it always comes, I've got a money essence as well. I've got a money essence that I just made kind of a few years ago that I was just messing about with. But it seems like every time I take that, I get a new client, or I get some money coming in somewhere. So it's magic.
Amazing. You're selling that as well? Or you use
Well,
that
I
more for yourself?
haven't sold it yet, but I
I
could
think
make
after
one.
this, going to have to, because we'll get everyone asking for that now.
I've had someone else take it as well, and the same's happened to them, but I don't really, this is the thing with my essences, I'm trying to do more with them now, because I've made a lot, and I've made about 25 or 26 in the last 5 years, and so I'm working more with my own essences and getting it out there now as well, so that's exciting.
And I know with essences, it's so important as well what, the whoever is making them is putting into them, right? It's not like a tincture, I guess, where you just put stuff in it, and even then, I guess the energy is important, but especially with flower essences or essences in general, it's all about the practitioner's energy, right? That goes into it.
Yeah, it is about the practitioner's energy and their story, and well, it's about the environment and everything it's made in, and their energy as well. Yeah, so the different essence ranges. So there was Dr. Bach, who was, the most famous, and then there's a few others that are quite well known, but they've all got a different energy, so from different parts of the world, and the practitioners with different temperaments and different philosophies. So yeah, that energy goes into each range as well. So yeah, mine's sorry, go on.
You've got a Lake District essence as well, don't you? Which sounds very
Well, my this one, it's the Essence of the Lake District spray. So it's a healing mist, sorry, not a spray. And it's got five or six different essences that I've made all around the lakes, and a scent as well with Palo Santo and pine and rosemary. So it's quite a magical mist. Yeah.
So how would you say over the last years, or now as well, how has your business affected your friendships, relationships in general, if at all?
Relationships in general. I suppose like with the kids, they've always had me working on my business, but sometimes I have mum guilt about that, I guess, because I think that, you know, I've pretty much have always put them first, but sometimes you have to put your business first and say, Mum's got to work now, or I've got to go with such and such because I've got to go and do this. So there is some guilt around the relationship with my kids and being an entrepreneur, but for me it outweighs it, because that's all, well, for one, that's all they've known, that's how their mum is, and for two, I think it's inspired them, you know, that seeing me doing that will have inspired them as well. And my elders, well, both of them are quite entrepreneurial, how they talk about stuff already. So yeah, and I have pretty much always put them first. And what about other relationships? Well, other relationships, friendships, I've made a lot of friendships, so that's been a really positive thing. It hasn't, I wouldn't say it's affected them in a bad way. I've made so many friendships through my work. So that's been great. And friendships that I've worked with people, you know, who I've already been friends with, I've learned to put boundaries in, or actually, you know, say it might not be a good idea for us to work together because we're friends. Sometimes it doesn't mix very well. So I've learned that over the years as well. With my marriage, I don't know, we were always quite balanced, that I would work when he worked and vice versa. We're not together now though, but I suppose that still happens. So but it never really, I don't think it ever really got in the way of that. So yeah, I think it's never been, people around me have always been quite supportive, so my family have always been quite supportive, and yeah, people quite like hearing my ideas, I find, in my family anyway. But my mum didn't like it when I set up my business.
Because why? So
Well, because I was working for university and I got, you know, got pension paid for and paid holidays and stuff, and I was like, had a baby, and then I said, I'm not going back, I'm going to set up my business. She's like, oh, what are you doing? You've got, you know, you've got holidays and a pension. I was like, well, sorry, but that's what I've got to do. So
it's all about the mental health as well in that respect, right? And
yeah,
as your, how do you feel rich? And I know for a lot of, I think it's a generational thing as well. My mum's exactly the same. She's like, because I studied teaching years ago,
huh?
and I finished it, and she's still, I think it's like 15 years ago now that I finished. She's still, every time I talk, not every time, but most times I talk to her, she would still mention like, why don't you just look, they're looking for teachers. And I'm like, no. Yes, I think
Yeah,
that they're just
I think
so
my
into the
mum's given up with
job.
it now, but she's given up a bit with it
Yes.
now, but at the time she's yeah, I think she's kind of accepted it how I am now, but she did find it hard. But when you're saying about mental health, I had bad mental health problems in my late teens and early 20s, and that's when I worked for other people and stuff. So it's kind of been since I've had kids and worked for myself, I've been able to adapt my lifestyle to cope with that all that better. And I don't, you know, well, I suppose with essences as well, I've found essences and they've really helped me, and other sort of spiritual practice that I use, but that all works into my business and working from like my soul, I guess, and just following that really. And I was thinking about this the other day, like I don't struggle with mental health like I used to, but I do still have days where I struggle, but it's just that I have a different lifestyle that I can just relax into that, or I can go for a walk for a couple of hours, or I can, you know, it's adapting your lifestyle and having that freedom to be able to, you know, nurture yourself when you need to, which a lot of people in jobs and things like that can't do, can they? Because they have to keep following that. And if you're I'm very sensitive, and I think if you learn and accept that you're sensitive, you can adapt your lifestyle to fit that as well. So that's all part
I
to
guess it's
me.
your body. Sorry.
I was
I
just going
guess
to say,
it's your body talking as well, right? To let you know actually something isn't right. We need to
yeah,
change something.
yeah, And I think that's
Yeah.
all part of business for me as well. It's all part of, well, I suppose because I do a lot of healing work with my essences, but for me, that's all part of business, is honoring that and working with people that will honor that, and having boundaries and having the time to, yeah, to be able to, I'm quite emotional, and I can be emotional, and I can need space, and I think I've learned in business and at home that I have to have the time to honor that, and people around me can, I can help them understand that, and then they will be able to honor themselves and their feelings as well. So, and I've always been very honest in business. I think maybe I'm quite lucky because I've worked with other mums or other holistic practitioners who get it, but I've always been very lucky that if there's something going on in my personal life, and I'm struggling a bit, or not struggling, but I need that space, then I can tell the person I'm working with, look, at this, at the moment I'm going through some stuff, and it might be a bit later. It's never been like very tight deadlines that I work with. Some people it is, and that's fine, but I've been very blessed to work with really great understanding people who are on the same page, to be honest. So that's really good. And I think any business you go into, as a sensitive person, then you need that. You need to be able to honor that, and for people to understand that as well. And I think on social media, a lot of people talk about that now as well. So it's quite a normal thing, isn't it?
True.
For
So
people to,
what's your vision for the future of your business, but also just for your family, both business related and family related?
okay.
Have you got a bigger vision?
Well, I've realized, well, because I'm a Taurus as well, and I've realized I'm a very homely, earthy person, and I love home and being at home, and I've got this beautiful home now. I rent it, but it's not mine, but I think it's pretty secure. And I just really want this beautiful home space and business, really. So to have the yurt, things going on in the yurt, healing stuff and workshops, and my essences that I make at home and send out, and then my design work is obviously from home as well, but then I can balance that with creating a lovely learning space for the boys, and when they're here they can feel really nurtured. And so it's all for me, it's all focused around my home, and just, well, you know, me being creative in my home and sharing that with people, and helping the boys feel creative and nurtured at home. So there's plans for me to do healing things with somebody else, which I can't really talk about at the moment, but that might be a weekly thing in my yurt. And yeah, maybe I might rent the yurt out on Airbnb. And then just really focus on my essences and nurturing creative souls through those two. I've got my creative soul studio, which is my design, and my creative soul healing, which is my essences, and just try and keep it simple with those two things, and being at home with the boys. And for them, I just really would like to be able to have the money to, as they get into teens, for them to be able to do any tutoring or whatever they want, you know. So that's kind of my focus at the moment, because they get into that age where it's not just all about play. Well, my older one is, he wants to do more worky sort of things and courses, so I want to be able to provide that for him, whatever he wants to do. And what was I going to say then? And also I've bought into a woodland locally, so also just being involved in that, and I suppose helping be self-sufficient with this group of people I've bought this woodland with. So it's not something I can put a massive amount of time in, but that's sometimes part of my 3 days that I have, where I go and do a few hours with people on the woodland. So that's part of, I suppose, part of my vision. And I have this idea in my head that keeps coming back, of making my garden into a beautiful rose garden and making essences of different roses. So that's part of it as well. But it's all very homely and earthly, and supporting people in a grounded way through all my offerings, if you know what I mean, and just being really in myself at home. And yeah, that's how I feel more now. And it's strange because I was always into thinking of going away and going here, there, and we went to Portugal to live for 2 years, and I always used to think of new ideas of like, oh, I like that place, maybe I should go and see if I want to move there. Or but I'm very much grounded in where I am now, and I just love the lakes, and I can see myself staying here and really anchoring my business and my life here, which is unusual. I've not felt like that for a while, so yeah.
Yeah, I can very much resonate with that at the moment. Because yeah, we have been in a van for 4.5 years now, and I'm so ready to just have like a nest again for the family, for myself, to just have some space and be able to run the businesses that I, sometimes I'm like, oh, I could do this and I want to be so creative, but I can't because I can't even store anything in this space. So yes, totally. The
It's
homey
a beautiful van though.
yeah,
You've had
cozy.
such an adventure, haven't you?
Yeah, it has been. It wasn't really what we envisioned at the beginning, like, the whole traveling, but yes, it's definitely something that I would never regret. Like, I wouldn't do it again, but I don't regret having done it. So it was one of those where I really wanted to try it. Like you said earlier, like you just have to go for it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, then well, it doesn't work, but at least you've tried. So yeah, that's it.
And it's the feat, like when we went to Portugal, I just knew that was all through my intuition. It was well, we met people through my Parent Tribe blog, went to stay with them for a work away, then we came back and I said, we've got to move to Portugal and try this, and it just all flowed so easily. Doors were opening, and I was really focused on getting there, and we got there, and it was all like just listening to my intuition and flowing, and then it ended up not working out, and I was like, how did that happen? Like, why did that not work out when I was flowing with it so much? But then now I realize that sometimes doesn't have to mean that you're going to do that forever. It just was that you had to flow with it, you had that experience and learn from it, and it was great. But you can move on and be someone completely different if you want to be. If that's how it feels. And that's something in my human design profile though. There's like these two numbers you get in the profile, and mine's 6-3 or 3-6, and it's all about learning through experiences. Like that's my life, is just learning through experiences, and then as you get older, you settle down a bit more into it, and you can talk about the experiences to other people. But it so resonates with me because that's what I've done all the way through. Like my 20s and 30s is just throw myself into things and learn through the experience, and I feel like I'm just sort of settling down a bit more with it now, and still do that, but maybe not just move to another country on a whim sort of thing here.
And also, as you said, I remember, I think it was on your Instagram or something, I saw a little while ago that you pulled out your old vision board and you had put that place where you are now, right?
Gosh,
Lake
oh my
District.
god, let me see if I can find it. It's so crazy. Is it here? No, it's not. But yeah, that was years ago. Like before I went to Portugal, I went on this cacao ceremony. Was it? No, it was just when I got back from Portugal. But we were living in Grasmere, which is, you visited that house. It was like kind of off-grid house in the Lake District. And had no plans about moving anywhere. And we had this cacao ceremony where you drank the cacao, and then you had magazines, and you could only have like 30 seconds, then you rip some stuff out, move it on, 30 seconds, rip it, just what you were drawn to. And then you had like a minute to make each A4 board. And there was one where I put Rydal water, Rydal caves, a big owl, and a house that you were looking out the window that was all greenery, right? Honestly, I found it 3 weeks ago, and I was like, what? Because I live right next to Rydal water, like literally the nearest house to it. And the caves, I'm on the path to the caves, which is like a really busy walkway, which is why I can do my honesty box. I've got this thing with owls at the minute, and I hear owls all the time outside my house. and my windows look out into greenery and trees. I was like, no, that's just, I wasn't even thinking about any of that. And it's just there. It's bizarre, isn't it, how that works? It's like it's in your consciousness already or something. And then, and also, and I think if you follow your intuition and follow the path of your soul, I believe that then these things come to fruition when you don't know it almost, but it's in there as your path, maybe, I don't know. But also Felix, my youngest, when he was born, we were going to move to Australia like 5 weeks after he was born because my husband got a job there. Anyway, I got a bit of postnatal anxiety and, well, quite bad, and I realized I just didn't want to move to Australia. I couldn't do it. I couldn't mentally do it. So, but before we were moving, I thought I want to give him a Lake District name so that if we're living in Australia, he's got a Lake District name. So one of his middle names is Rydal. And then we've ended up living in Rydal, which is a tiny little like hamlet in Rydal. And it's never like a plan to live in Rydal. It's just because one of my friends who's a yoga teacher, I went on a walk with her to talk about some work stuff. And she said, oh, I'm moving house. I'm buying a house because this is a rented house. And I said, who's taking your house over? And she went, I don't know, but I could put a word in for you if you want. And I went, yeah, okay. And it just happened really fast. And so there wasn't any plans for me to move to Rydal ever. And those two things in my life, you know, the vision board and Felix's name. And it's like, wow, that's so strange that now I've moved to Rydal and it's the most settled I've ever felt. Funny, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful.
I love all these things. I love it when these synchronicities and stuff happen. In fact, I might do a vision board tonight. I was thinking that.
Amazing. Oh, Hatti, thank you so much for being so honest and vulnerable and just sharing so much about your story. I really love it. And I feel really just touched and moved by it all. I knew a lot of it already, but it's nice to just hear more details. And yeah, it was beautiful.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Anything more you'd like to add before we get into your contact details?
No, I just want to say thank you, and like it's lovely to do this again because, like I say, I've had such a big transitional year, and I've stepped back a lot from social media and stuff because of it, and it's really nice to do this again. Actually, this is it feels a bit like well, just with things that have happened in the last few weeks as well, and then you asking me this, it feels maybe like moving into a new stage in my work. So that's really nice. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. But yeah, so for people who want to know more about, especially your money essence, probably, but everything else, how are they able to get in contact with you about your design work and just everything?
Okay, so I've got two websites, the Creative Soul Studio, which is my design work, and you can see everything I do on there. And actually I've got an offer at the moment, well, an offer for people on this video. I started to do a creative support hour, and I'll knock 10% off for people on this video. So I suppose I'll give you the code and stuff for that. But the creative support hour is an hour where we'll be on Zoom and I can just help you with anything creative, just a chat about stuff, or we can do something together, like how to do design yourself, or talk through some ideas, or even talk about starting the business and how you might go about it, you know, anything like that you need really. But you can find out more on my website about what it includes. So I'm going to offer 10% off that. And then my healing website is Creative Soul Healing, and that's got my essences and my yurt workshops, so you can find out more about that on there. I think that's all I need to know. You can maybe put my Instagram at the bottom as well. Would you do that? I'm mainly only on Instagram now. So yeah, I was thinking about starting TikTok. What do you think about that?
I have no idea. I'm not on there and I'm not planning to be, but it's yes, quite a big thing at the moment. So yes, of course, for everyone, the details will be underneath. So you don't have to remember any of it. I will put all the details underneath and the code as you see.
I'm also going to do an ebook about creating harmony in your home and creative soul business. So that'll be an email sign up on my website soon as well, if anyone's interested in that.
Amazing. And of course, if anyone's interested in buying natural Cumbria off you, then they can
Oh yes,
contact
it's
with you.
best if you're based in Cumbria, but yes, please do get in touch. It'll only be for the next month or so that it'll be open to. So it might be a time related thing if you're watching this later on than that. But yeah, do get in touch. And the money essence you're talking about, I haven't sold it, but I could make some to sell. If anyone wanted to try it, then just please get in contact.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Yeah.
chat with you in just a second, but for now we'll wrap this up here. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here and for listening.
Yeah.
And yes, do get in contact with Hatti. She's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you like these kinds of videos, then please sign up at the link provided in the description below, where I will send out more interviews like this one and also some personal updates every now and then, as well as offers that I'll only be sending out via email. For now, have a beautiful day, and until next time, much love.